England have qualified for the semi-finals of the Women's World Cup. They'll play South Africa. The defending champions beat Bangladesh by 100 runs in Wellington overnight. Henry Moran led our commentary team.
So we know the semi-final lineup for the ICC Women's World Cup of 2022. It came after a final day of group matches that saw one pretty comprehensive victory for England over Bangladesh, and then yet another thriller as India were knocked out, losing to South Africa in the final over and seeing West Indies through to the final four. So Australia, the hot favourites for the tournament, will play West Indies here in Wellington on Tuesday. That gets underway at 11 p.m. before England take on South Africa in the early hours of Thursday morning in Christchurch, a repeat of the 2017 semi-final. So, Alex Hartley, a World Cup winner with England 5 years ago. Let's talk about the England game first. It was pretty regulation and they got the job done against Bangladesh.
It was indeed. It was always going to be an easier game for England, but Catherine Brunt said a couple of days ago, you can't take any game for granted in this World Cup, and England definitely didn't do that today. It was a strong performance from them, and now through to the semi-finals where they'll play South Africa on Thursday.
Bangladesh are a side that have never played in a 50-over World Cup. This is the first time England have played them in a 50-over game. So the odds were this was going to be a heavy victory. 100 runs was the margin. But some key performances in there, particularly with the bats Sophia Dunkley and Amy Jones in the middle, which will give a real boost to England, where that's been a bit of a problem area.
Yeah, Sophia Dunkley had some starts in this competition and not gone on and scored big runs, so she'll be really pleased with herself there. That key partnership between Dunkley and Jones, they came together when England were 96 for 4, so they really could have fallen at that hurdle, but they didn't. They regrouped and they got a decent score on the board.
Well, let's hear from Sophia Dunkley. She made 67, top scoring for England today, and I got her thoughts on the performance on the boundary edge at the close of play.
Yeah, 100% relieved. I think we've turned it around from our start, got 4 wins on the board in the must-win games. So yeah, we're really happy with that.
How much doubt was there in the side when those first 3 games went against you?
I wouldn't say there was doubt. I think more just disappointment. I think we always knew we could come back and fight for it, and we were really close against Oz as well, which gave us a lot of confidence. So yeah, a little bit shaky at the start, but it's good to get back on the board.
Do you have a preference for who you play in the semi-final?
No, I think this competition has been so open and everyone's beat everyone really, so it's very hard to say. So yeah, we'll just have to see what happens in the next game and see where we are. But I'm looking forward to watching and seeing what happens.
For you personally, runs in the middle order, it's important that England do have that batting depth. How satisfying was it to get those runs today? Yeah,
extremely satisfying. I think it was nice to just build on it today, and I've got a few starts in the competition. To build on it is very pleasing and good to go into the semi-finals with that.
You would have heard all the stories and seen all of the tales of 2017.
Yeah.
Now you're 2 games away from repeating that feat. How does that feel?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing feeling really, and I think sometimes you forget that you're at a World Cup when you're in it and what a childhood dream that is. So like for me, I was in the stands in 2017 watching them lift the World Cup, so to be here and kind of 2 games away from that is an amazing feeling. But yeah, just looking forward to the next game and hopefully we can get over the line.
Have those conversations happened yet? Those discussions of what if you could get that trophy?
I think we don't want to look too far ahead and we kind of want to stay in the now, but the girls know that we can make history with that, so that's definitely something on our minds. But I think just take each game as it comes, and hopefully it could be a possibility.
A word on Sophie Eccleston, who has been outstanding in this tournament. How nice is it for her to be on your side?
Yeah, it's just great to have Sophie on our side. I think obviously #1 bowler in the world now in ODI and T20, and she's definitely shown it. And yeah, I don't like facing the net, so I'm definitely glad not to be on her team. So yeah, she's done outstanding this comp, and wouldn't expect anything different.
This is a team that has shown there is depth, with players coming into the side, taking wickets today. Charlie Dean, Freya Davis. One concern though, Catherine Brunt heading off the field. What can you tell us about how she's doing?
I think she's okay. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I'm sure she'll be absolutely fine. And like you say, they've got good depth, the covering and all. But yeah, Brunt I'm sure she'll be firing back again next week.
And Freya Davis came in, bowled very nicely today, and these are difficult problems for a selector to have when somebody does come in and bowl well.
Yeah, I think she bowled excellently today, and obviously run rate was a factor, and she bowled really well, lots of dots, and really got the batters playing. So yeah, a difficult problem to have, but a good one nonetheless.
I've never seen an England team with as many long sleeve jumpers today. What have the conditions been like here in windy Wellington?
Yeah, it has been a little bit windy, not as bad as we thought it might be, and obviously the sun came out, so that was really nice. But yeah, a lot of long sleeve jumpers, which is good, keep us cosy. But yeah, it wasn't too bad.
And you've got now potentially 2 or 3 days until you play that semi-final. You'll be keeping an eye on how it goes between South Africa and India this evening. Do you have a preference as to the venue you play?
No, I think these are both great venues. We love playing in New Zealand. Obviously Hagley Park Park is a great place to play, lovely sunset, and where the final will be, and also here is a great ground as well. So yeah, just see what happens. But yeah, both great places to play.
Well, Alex, Sophia Dunkley saying that England don't mind who they play or where they play them. But South Africa, it's a repeat of the 2017 semi-final. You will have very strong memories of that day at Bristol.
I have indeed. I'm just praying that Anya Shrubsole's fit and ready to go and hit the winning runs through the covers again.
How will England assess that as an opponent? Because South Africa, bar one game against Australia, have beaten all they've faced. They've been superb.
They have indeed, but so have Australia. I think if England were being realistic, this was the semi-final that they would have wanted. So Australia are playing the West Indies on Wednesday and England play South Africa on Thursday. Probably the semi-final that they wanted. No game's an easy game when it comes to knockout cricket, though, so it's going to be an incredibly tough challenge for England.
It's felt like no game's an easy game even to watch during this World Cup. Let's move on to the second game of the day, and also important, India against South Africa for who was going to take up those final places in the semi-finals. We knew South Africa were through. India had to win if they were going to make it at the expense of West Indies. It went down to the final over with 7 needed. There was a wicket. It was a no ball. A reprieve for Mignon de Pree of South Africa. She hits the winning runs. Devastation for India. And yet another thrilling, dramatic game that goes down to the final ball.
I genuinely thought we were going to get a super over. That's the way this World Cup has gone. It's been a brilliant World Cup so far. The group stages have exceeded all expectations. Every single game has been an absolute thriller. And this one to knock India out was probably the best of the lot.
Australia won't mind playing the West Indies. I mean, they, as a side, have been a little bit on a downward slide since that really good start.
You can't take the West Indies for granted, though. They are the sort of team that will turn up and it takes 1 or 2 players to get big scores. Deandra Dottin's due a big score. Hayley Matthews as well at the top of the order. But you do think that Australia most likely are going to beat the West Indies.
Now, there is one advantage for England in all of this, and that is if they were to make it through to the final, they would have played 3 games in Christchurch. Australia won't have had the opportunity to have played at that venue should they get there. So there are little things that maybe England will be looking at and thinking, is this going our way?
Is it written in the stars? Can we lose our first 3 games and win the World Cup? Amy Jones said it would be something incredibly special after they did lose that 3rd game to go on and win the World Cup. And they could do, yeah.
So who's going to be in that final? It's first up Australia, West Indies, then England, South Africa. Who will be playing at Hagley Oval a week today for that trophy?
I've said from the start, Australia, England. So Australia, England.
I'm not going to ask you who's going to win it at this stage. We'll wait for those semi-finals to take place. Alex Hartley, thank you very much indeed.